Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you've been watching the channel, you know that Lethal Gaming Gear has been making huge moves in the mousepad market. For those who don't know, Lethal Gaming Gear is a website that sells mice, mousepads, skates, cables, anything you might need to mod your mouse for a better gaming experience. And we've certainly seen innovation with pads, we've seen innovation with cables, but now Lethal Gaming Gear is coming out with glass mouse skates for a lot of our favorite mice. The G Pro Superlight glass skates feel absolutely phenomenal on first try. And I have tried a number of skates. I have core pads on my Starlight 12. I have Tiger Ice skates on my Orochi V2. The Ponage Ultra Custom Sim 2 comes with Tiger Arc V2 stock. And even compared to the glorious default skates, I can for sure say that as far as longevity is concerned, the glass skates are going to be the most hardcore and heavy duty skates that you might potentially own. I have not a single scratch on my glass skates since I have used them. When I first put the glass skates on, which was a very easy and painless process, I really didn't know what to expect, but instantaneously going from my ice skates to the glass skates, I can say that I noticed a fantastic improvement with the static friction and initial friction. The force required to get the mouse to move is instantaneously less. So if anybody is a wrist aimer, you're going to notice an improvement in that maneuverability and that speed, that force required to get the mouse to move. Dynamic friction is still very, very controlled, surprisingly, with the glass skates. You can see the mouse still comes to a very, very nice stop. And even compared to the Tiger Ice skates, which are known to be the fast PTFE skates, you can see the mouse is very, very controlled on those dynamic movements, right? So it's a very interesting feeling, and a feeling that I personally think a whole lot of people are going to enjoy. The liftoff distance was not affected on my G Pro Superlight. The skates fit absolutely perfectly. And the first pad that I tried after not playing Apex for about 9 or 10 days was the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn pad, which is a controlled cloth pad. And you know that little tug feeling that you get on a few cloth mouse pads or a few control pads? This kind of lessens that. You don't feel quite the texture or the pull or the tug that you feel with PTFE skates on cloth. So me personally, I hope that every mouse that I own, I can put glass skates on. The durability is absolutely insane. And again, the feeling, the speed, the friction is just so damn good. You guys need to try these. There is an adjustment period with the glass skates. I can say for close range tracking, it felt very good after about 1 or 2 games. I also haven't played Apex in about like 9 days, so it definitely took some warming up this go around, but the tracking felt phenomenal. Long range tracking felt great. Close range tracking felt really, really good. And I can say there are definitely benefits of having that additional maneuverability for that fine-tuning movement when you are in need of those small little static movements. Additionally, I feel that the glass skates open up a whole wide array of mouse pads that at once you might have felt were too slow for static friction purposes, but maybe they were very good for dynamic purposes. It makes those pads viable, usable, and they could potentially go from a pad that might have been your side pad to a pad that is now your main mouse pad. I think having that additional fast get-go on that static friction, on that static movement, just feels so much better than PTFE. You can start with your core pads and you can just feel the difference immediately on how much faster that initial movement is and how much more effortless it is, both on static and dynamic. But dynamic, again, feels still very controlled, even probably just as controlled as my core pads. It just feels better and a little bit more maneuverable, but not uncontrollable, again, like ceramic feet feel. Compared to the Tiger Ice skates, which are known to be fairly fast, again, the static friction is definitely faster, definitely more maneuverable. The initial friction is less with the glass skates. But on those dynamic movements, again, it's not far off as far as controllability. It's almost probably a 1-to-1, almost on par with the Tiger Ice skates on that dynamic movements. But you do feel a little bit less tug. You don't feel as much friction than you do on the Tiger Ice skates. Again, kind of minimal. And that's a good thing. You maintain that control on those dynamic movements, but the maneuverability for when you need it is there, manageable, and just feels superb on the pad. One of the things I was most surprised with was my experience with the glass skates on the Razer Strider. The Razer Strider historically for me is a pad that I felt was a little more slippery, a pad that I was over aiming with, and my experience with the glass skates was actually better than PTFE on the Razer Strider, and I think I can owe that or own that up to the fact that the ability to get those micro movements and maneuverability is actually better and faster and easier on glass mouse skates. The durability has not been affected on the harder Razer Strider whatsoever. I have 0 scratches on this. Even on my SkyPad, these skates have not scratched compared to PTFE, which naturally you can take out of the box and you'll start to wear down the minute that you start using them. Of course, they hold up well, they last a long time, but eventually you do have to replace them. The durability on these seems absolutely amazing, and my ability to kind of overcome some of the issues I had on the Razer Strider were somewhat resolved with the glass skates. I at least felt better on the glass skates. And again, I think the biggest benefit to the glass skates is just feeling so much better on that initial friction, that initial movement. Not only is my wrist feeling better, but it just feels much more natural to get the mouse moving on the glass skates while maintaining, even on a fast pad, maintaining control over those dynamic and fast movements. And I think that as you use the glass skates, even on a fast pad like the Strider, the feeling of, or the at least conscious feeling that you are using glass kind of fades away. You start to kind of feel as though you're using PTFE skates. Just PTFE skates that feel very, very consistent, very clean, not anything that is bogging you down or giving you that pull feeling that you typically get with PTFE on certain types of cloth pads. It's just a very consistent, very clean, very smooth feeling, and it actually did not affect my aim in any way. If anything, I think that I was playing just as good as I could at my best on PTFE skates. I really do think that Lethal Gaming Gear has innovated with these glass mouse skates. They are better to me than PTFE skates. The lower initial friction feel is nicer on my wrist, nicer in my gameplay, and they just feel extremely good, and there's not a scratch on them. These things are durable as heck. I think they're going to last way longer than PTFE skates, and there's definitely a peace of mind knowing that I'm not going to have to replace these skates as much or as fast or as quickly as PTFE skates. And it's nice knowing that my consistency is going to stay the same from the moment I put the skates on for however long down the road that these glass skates last. But again, not a single scratch on these with the amount of time that I've put into it. And that is definitely something to be said for these glass mouse skates by Lethal Gaming Gear. I personally can't sit here and say that it's going to turn a bad player into a good player, a mediocre player into a superb player, or a superb player into a bad player, right? I can't say if it's going to affect your gameplay on any end of the spectrum, but for me personally, what I can say is that my comfort level has definitely increased, and I feel phenomenal with the glass mouse skates. I think that everybody should at least try them once. They should be coming out on the G Pro Superlight fairly soon, and I cannot recommend them enough to see how it impacts you either way on whichever end of the spectrum. But definitely superb durability and superb comfort. If that helped, guys, please leave a subscription to the channel, and I'll see you in the next review. Peace.